Good day, my name is Roman, and today I'll be taking you in historical development of social work in UK. So we'll start with the role of church in early social welfare. We see the church provided for the poor and vulnerable before the state or the government took over the responsibility for social welfare. We see a state welfare, that is what's happening here, where the government was now taking care of the people for their well-being, or the government is taking care of its citizens for their own well-being. Yeah, so you see the church offered spiritual guidance and organized charitable organizations like distribution of alms, food, clothing to the needy or to the poor people. We see also the role of monasteries, which acted as centers of relief for the poor, for they collected tax or tithe so that from those people who are rich, so that they can provide for the poor through the Christian teachings, which emphasize charity and compassion for the less fortunate or the poor as a way for soul purification. So those people who are rich or who are more fortunate, they would provide more so for their own soul purification as a belief. That was a belief. So we see this marked the beginning of organized social welfare, though it was informal and depended on the goodwill of religious institutions or local communities or those people who were rich to provide for the church so that the church can provide for the poor. We see the role of the church lead to more structured forms of social support developed by the state in 1572 by Queen Elizabeth, where she signed the statute to finance the poor. Then we'll talk about the Elizabethan law, poor law, in 1601. It was the first piece of legislation to establish a national system for the relief of poor, making it a cornerstone of social work history of in UK. The law grouped the poor as one, the able-bodied poor, two, the important poor, those who were aged and disabled, who could not work, and the dependent children. These are the groups which the law grouped the poor. So we see the law includes this Elizabethan poor law. It includes the parish responsibility, whereby each parish was responsible for caring for its own poor. This decentralized system meant that the local authorities, especially the church, had the power to levy for tax that we call the poor rates to fund for the poor relief. Two, the law also included the workhouse, which introduced the workhouses, where the able-bodied people who were poor were provided work so that they can get food and shelter. This was to reduce idleness, dependent, and ensure that only those who were truly in need would receive aid or would receive help. That's shelter, food, and clothing. And also, another third thing that the law included was outdoor relief. This one was for those who were unable to work. The law provided them assistance in their own homes for those people who were like disabled or those who were like aged people. See, also we have to know that the law established the principles of local responsibility, categorization of the poor, and the conditional assistance. Only those who were really in need were those who would get assistance, who would get aid. Then we have to underline the influence of Elizabethan poor law. It shaped the policies in England of social welfare, and also the idea of local responsibility for the poor continued or persisted. Third, the categorization of the poor based on their ability to work persisted. It also laid the foundation for the development of more formalized welfare systems, which influenced reforms in legislation. Then we also talk about the poor law revision in 1834 and also in 1909. Then we move on to the post-war era. There was expansion in welfare state. We'll see the Beveridge report and the birth of the modern welfare state. Here we see Sir William Beveridge in 1942. He wrote a report to the government saying where he identified 5 giant evils of society. That's want, disease, ignorance, squalor. Squalor is a state of being extremely dirty, and idleness. These are the 5 giants of evils. giant evils of society identified by the report by Sir William Beveridge. The report proposed a system of social insurance funded by the state to provide protection from cradle to grave. We see here the government or the state was supposed to be providing protection of every individual, of every person in the country from birth up until death. Then also we will talk about the influence of the Beveridge Report of 1942. We see the first one is universal social insurance. All citizens to contribute to a social insurance scheme that would provide benefits in time of need like unemployment, sickness, or retirement. Also, another influence was public assistance in children allowances were introduced. National health services in 1948 were introduced, which were providing free health care to all persons. Then family allowance and financial support to families with children, reducing poverty and improve living conditions of all people in the state. Then also we see 1945, the Disabled Persons Act passed because of this beverage. It was all part of his recommendations. So this act were some of those acts which were passed because of the report Sir William Beveridge wrote. And also we see National Insurance Act in 1946 was passed. Industrial Injuries Act in 1946 was passed. So we see here social work was integrated into health, welfare services, housing, and family welfare as part of the Beveridge report. The report shifted focus from punitive poor relief to a more system of social protection that sought to address the root causes of poverty and inequality. The report made sure that the social work, the focus was now on the root causes, and you have to underline the root causes and deal with them rather than just curing the symptoms. What you are seeing, we have to deal with the root causes, what is causing those problems, right? Then we'll talk about the charity organization societies, COS movement, which were founded in 1869. This one is aimed to coordinate charitable efforts and promote more scientific approaches to address poverty and other social issues. So the charity organizations, societies, it focused on scientific aid, or just not just giving people relief, but helping them so that they will create independence upon the clients or upon the people who are needing help. It advocated for casework, a method of assessing individual needs and providing tailored support, which become a foundational practice in social work. And also they gave education, healthcare services, employment, counseling for financial gain, and encouragement for creative plans. We have to note that community organization as a social work method was also introduced. Moving on, we'll talk about the settlement house movement in 1867. The employees, which were usually the volunteers, addressed social and economic problems of urban areas by establishing community centers in improvised neighborhoods. They focus on addressing the problems, social issues faced by the people, like lack of education, lack of health care, lack of legal aid. So the settlement houses, they provide education, health care, legal aid, and served as a central point of connection for social reform and activism. With this, I thank you.